right now, what it tends to do is it just lets me stream and it doesn't say, oh, by the way, you're streaming now. So that's quite funny. I've ended up, there was a video the other day of me just like fixing my hair for about 3 minutes straight. And then there was another one where I was trying to finish the video, but I didn't know if I had to wait to finish it or if it was just going to keep going until like forever. So I sort of sat quietly and then realised that wasn't great if people were watching, and eventually just started chatting, and I was live the whole time. So I'm now live on the YouTubes. I should still be here on the Instagrams. Just want to check on the old Facebook. Let's see. That's the last one. If we can get that on the go, we might be cooking with gas. Hey, I think I'm there. So I see Facebook's quite pleasant because it lets you set everything up. And then there's a button to say, are you going live now? Do you want to go live? And you click that and you go live. But the rest of them, a little bit complicated. Okie doke. And I believe we are now actually live. Hello, thank you for your patience, especially if you're watching on Instagram, where I have been dicking about for about the past 7 minutes, apparently. I'm just trying to take over the world, that's all. I'm taking over the world by attempting to have more than one stream going on at a time. And that is complicated for various different reasons, mainly because I don't know what I'm doing, I've never done this before. And it also means that I can hopefully get this out to lots of different people on lots of different platforms, but it also means that there's a lot of buttons to click and I'm not very great at that. So today I am going to, I've already said this on the Instagram video, sorry, you'll bear with me. What I really want to do is I really want to, oh, I've got a wee error going on. Oh, I could do without this. Today's been a bit of an errors day. Right, we'll see how this goes. It might be shit. Yeah, what I actually want to do on these videos is I want to take you out and show you the beautiful garden rooms that are outside, just over there, just outside my office. However, we are out in the countryside and the internet is not brilliant. So the ability to do that and to be on several different streaming platforms at the same time, it's just too much sauce for the weak internet. I say that, it's much better than it used to be. So yesterday I had a wee try where I went out with a camera and used like mobile internet to see how it went. And what I found was if I sit down in one space and stay there the whole time, it works pretty well. But if I want to move about, which is the whole point of being mobile, it gets really blocky and pixelated and all that stuff. So I've done what I could to try and avoid that. I have made some videos to let you see them. Oh, somebody's at the door. Hello, come in. You're live on Channel 4, don't say fuck or bugger.
Okay. Where am I working today? On your desk.
Oh, that desk right there.
Right.
Cool. That was Paddy. He's in this afternoon just to say hello. I bet you any money he hasn't shut the door properly though, which is okay because it happens. But all the windows are open because if you're in Britain today, it's roasting and the door will probably slam. So don't be alarmed if that happens. Cool. So I've made you some videos to let you see how big and how small are small garden rooms. So I've been talking a lot about small garden rooms over the past wee while in the videos that I've been making. Because if you're trying to buy a small garden room, it is tough out there. You've either got mass-produced, supplier-sold, usually self-assembly buildings that are not great quality if you're looking for something that's going to last a long time and perform really well. Then we've got the like super spec, really high specification, building control compliant buildings, which are fabulous. But if you only want a small building, you'll probably find that they're really expensive. And if you look at the kind of the price per square meter, it tends to be with the building control garden rooms because the specification is so complex that the small buildings are much more expensive per square metre than the large buildings would be, which of course makes sense because of economy of scale. And here at Gillis and Mackay, we identified that problem and we wanted to be there for the folk that are saying, I just want something wee, but I want it to be really good and I want it to last a long time. I want it to be made by a real company with real people who I can get back in touch with if anything goes wrong or if I've got any questions. And I don't want to spend 60 grand on a tiny little garden room that's just going in a wee corner of my garden. So we created, in response to that problem, a radiata garden rooms. And I've been talking about that this week. There's other places to watch that if you want to hear about it. And last time I spoke about prices. How much is a small garden room? And it was a bit annoying, that video, if I'm perfectly honest, because it's really, really hard to answer that question without getting into the weeds of how do I know what I'm paying for? How do I decode specifications? Yada, 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 all that sort of stuff. And my plan today was to talk some more about specifications. However, I sat down yesterday with Gordon, our succession director, and we started to talk about things like insulation quality, wall makeup, cavity size, how all these things go together, airflow, U values, all that chat, all the kind of things that you consider if you're actually building a garden room. And the conclusion that we got to was, it's just too hard. Now, I want you to bear in mind, I have been here for about 3.5 years, and in that time, I have spent all my working hours researching, writing about, and learning about garden buildings. Gordon has been doing this job for, I think, 30 plus years. He's been here since the start. So, or pretty much since the start. So we consider ourselves not absolute idiots when it comes to garden buildings. But it's absolutely crazy complicated out there if you want to say, how do I know what I'm getting? How do I know if it's good value for money? How long is it going to last? Without going to these building control compliant, really, really over-spec'd, overkill buildings that are going to cost a fortune. So we thought about what we were going to say about specification, and I realised it wasn't something that I was able to break down just yet, although I am thinking about it. Also, it's 1,000,000 degrees today, and really what everybody wants to do when the weather is like this is sit down somewhere nice. So that's what I did, basically. When I was planning this yesterday, I thought, what if people want to just see the nice spaces that they could be sitting down in this beautiful weather that we're experiencing? And I am a person who really struggles to picture, well, I actually really struggle to picture anything. I don't have a good visual imagination. So if somebody says to me, it's 4 metres by 3 metres, that is information that my brain kind of goes, oh, all right, about. It's not something that I have a good sense of, like, how big is that? What can I put in a building that's that size? What does it look like? So I thought there might be other people out there who were in that same situation, who thought, like, I'm looking at these sizes, I could get a tape measure out and do all that stuff, but it's still really hard to picture it. And so I'm going to show you 3 things today. I'm going to show you the outside of our 4 radiata garden rooms. I'm going to show you what the insides look like. I'm going to attempt to give you some sort of sense of scale. Now, basically what I did here was I just went out and did some weighing. That sounds really stupid. It is quite stupid, the videos are quite silly. But I just wanted you to get a sense of what are these buildings like inside with a real live person in them. Now, for reference, I'm about 5'9", quite a large human being. So if you, like, I am basically there to scale. Not a banana, but me, a person. If you're wondering about the banana to scale thing, if you're on Facebook, have a look at the Dull Men's Club. I used to spend a lot of time there, despite not being a man. Do I qualify for the other bit? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, hopefully I'm not being dull today, but if you have been here since the start and you're bearing with me through the great clickery, yeah, thanks, that was boring. So, anyway, let's talk about radiata garden rooms. And I've got 2 things going on, so 2 buttons to click. Let's hope this works. Fingers crossed that it works at the same time. I started off yesterday at the Dukney. Now the Dukney is it's a beautiful wee garden room, and it's perfectly designed for corner gardens. So if you've got a space but you don't know which way the garden room's going to face, it's just a wee corner at the bottom of your garden. If you imagine a square that's been turned diagonally and then the front corner's been cut off, that's basically what the Dukney looks like. So the back point of the square goes in the corner, and then you're able to make the most of your space. Now the Dukney that's in our show area is 2.7 metres by 2.7 metres. You bet I've got that written down because I'm rubbish at remembering the numbers. Let me show you what it looks like. Now, if you're looking at this on YouTube or Facebook, it's a landscape stream and you're able to see it a little bit better. If you're on the portrait stream on Instagram, I did my best, but it might not be the ideal place to have a wee look at these things. I'll show you that again. Oh, I was going to attempt to show you it again, but the doodah's gone away. Here we go. Oh, here we don't go. Jesus, man. I'll turn it off and I'll turn it on again. As all good technological problems are solved. Yeah, so here it is. You can see what I mean. It fits in a corner. It's got a radiata cladding that gives the garden rooms their names, and it's got the slim profile aluminium doors and windows that look really good in a building of this size. It's not big chunky UPVC frames. They are much slimmer and they're much, well, we think they're pretty stylish. So this is the Dukeney, and the Dukeney, as I said, is 2.7 metres by 2.7 metres, which is 9 feet by 9 feet in old money, if you are interested in such things. Let's have a wee look at what it looks like inside. Click to the click, and hopefully everything works fine. Now, I'm aware that this particular video, it's one of these, it's like when you get a 360 video that you sometimes see on, you know, sort of toury places, or if you're looking at houses online, where it's quite tricky to get an idea of how big the building actually is. If you've ever had, you know, if you've ever had a schedule done for your house and they've made a video, you find yourself going, wow, this house looks amazing. So much nicer than the house I usually live in. Because, you know, you can use a bit of camera trickery to make a building look bigger, and that's not really what we're about. Oh, I think I've gone too big. I think I've flown too close to the sun, and now everything seems to be going pretty slowly. Echoing overloaded. I don't really know what that means. I think it's me, the laptop making big noise. So, looking at the Dukeney from here, I'm standing in the back corner of the building, and I'm trying to get a sense of how much space there is inside the building. It is a little bit tricky to actually see what's going on there. Oh, man. I'm struggling a little bit here. I'll leave it is a little bit like the old days of the internet where things just load line at a time. That bit of video. But what you can see in this 9x9 Dukeney, 2.7 metres by 2.7 metres is, it's not tea, you know. If you want it for an office, it would be enough for a desk and chair, most definitely. If you wanted it just as a wee sitooterie, as people often call them, it's more than big enough to have a couple of chairs in there, like a wee bookcase, a little table, a wee drinks cabinet, whatever it is that you're using the building for. This is the sort of thing that we can see. Oh, it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Maybe I have just taken too much. It's what I'm like relentless. However, we'll carry on looking at the Dukeney, how this works, and see how it is. You do a lot of folding. So here's the Dukeney in TV, and this is the only one of our buildings at the moment that isn't furnished. Usually we have beautiful furnishings going on, and the space is set up to let you see what would actually be able to fit within your garden, interior decorated taste. And I think that provides a good, it doesn't just let you see what it could look like, it also starts to give you some ideas. Maybe go into the garden rooms or show area and think, oh, I want this to see there, or I hate that piece much, I'd rather have something else. I could just see the door sitting in that garden room, or however it is that it goes. Okay, we'll turn this off now. I think we've had that. A little bit worried that the great plans aren't going to work out so well, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so when I made that video, I thought it is a bit tricky still to see what kind of size you're dealing with. So what it was, I went inside the building and did a wave. So here I am, one corner, and here's walking very slowly and oddly over to where the camera is. Now, if you're looking at landscape, you can see me waving. If you're looking on Instagram, you can see me bobbling up and down a little bit oddly. It's cause I'm waving, I promise. And I don't know, maybe that's easy, and maybe it's not. I can show you it again. But we've got 3 or 4 steps across the building, and maybe that gives you a little bit better idea of how big it is and what kind of things you could put in there. Like I say, plenty of room for a couple of chairs if you just want to sit in it, loads of space for a desk and a chair if you wanted to use it as a home office. If you were like art studio, craft studio, that kind of thing, there's definitely enough room for a good table to work at, some storage, not loads, but a little bit of storage. And you could get clever with the table that you work in to hopefully make that go. I'm really sorry, YouTube, you're the one that's complaining most, so I'm going to switch you off. I feel a little bit bad just cutting you like that. But also the old error is going on. Anyway, so that's what it looks like with a large human in it, walking across it and thinking about the kind of furniture space that you might have to play with. And the Dukeney comes in 3 sizes, so that's the middle size. There's an 8x8, a 9x9 and a 10x10, so it's 2.4 by 2.4 metres, 2.7 by 2.7 metres and 3 metres by 3 metres. We were just talking, even Kieran were talking about how all the design work, all the kind of technical drawings and plans and cutting, that's all done in millimetres. But when we talk about, 8x8 and 9x9, people tend to know what we mean. So the only time we actually are using the feet measurement is to describe the buildings to customers. The rest of the time it's all meter. So if you're thinking to yourself, 3 metres isn't the same as 10 feet, that's why. Best guess. But the metric sizes are most accurate. That's the way to go if you're a stick for details. Oh, I'm not going to saw YouTube off just yet. It seems to be doing its thing. It's just taking a really long time. Okay, so next up, second garden room. This is called the Kendrogan. All of our radiata garden rooms are, as our summer houses were before them, named after Scottish hills. I'm not sure where they all are. That's something I should probably look up and probably know. Okay, so on to the Kendrogan. I'll start off like we did before with the inside of the building. And you can see the Kendrogan is a rectangular garden room, and it's got a really pretty pyramidal hipped roof. So if you imagine it's like a pyramid at the top's being chopped off. Again, radiata cladding, again that beautiful slimline aluminium double glazed windows and doors, and we think it's very pretty. You may have noticed that the Duke and the Kendrogan have both got shingles. That's the case because the roofs are shaped. And these shingles, shingles are drama. Because we wanted shingles that could last as long as our guarantee, and the guarantee is 30 years. So we had to look on wide, and eventually we ended up sourcing Isola shingles. I think they come from Norway. It's either Norway or Sweden. And we had sort of like, I think we imported them, but this is the only place, at that time certainly, the only place in the UK where you could get these shingles, because we were insistent that the shingles that we use match the guarantee. If they couldn't be guaranteed for 30 years, they weren't good enough for our buildings, because we are in this for the long haul, and you should be too. If you're going to the expense and hassle of putting up a garden building, it shouldn't be something that you're having to replace in 5 years' time. So, anyway, onward to the Kendrogan, that's what I got to. What's the next guy that we're going to look at? The inside. Now, the Kendrogan is beautifully furnished, and we've actually got a video on YouTube of the building furnished, and it looks really cool. I do not have a eye for interior design. I think it goes along with that thing I was talking about, but I'm not good at picturing things. So when a room or a building is beautifully decorated, I can appreciate it, but if you ask me to imagine what it's going to look like, I really struggle. So that's why I think it's nice that the garden rooms have got that, there's a idea, a bit of shade here. Oh look, there's no space for a cupboard. These plants look really pretty. And all the rest of it. Cara loves artwork, she loves little touches. I never have thought about the gallows on the wall, but they're really cool. And the man's really bright close up. So that's the interior of the building, and as it's decorated, you do perhaps have a little bit more of a notion of the scale of what's going on, because the furniture, you may not know exactly how big that table is or how big those chairs are, but it does give you a notion. Now, this building is 3 metres by 2.4 metres, and that's 10 by 8 if you want to talk about old money. Oh, I forgot to tell you something very important. Both the Duke that I just showed you, the 2.7 by 2.7 metre, and the 3 by 2.4 metre Kendrogan, they both start at £40,350. Now, when I say they start at that, what I mean is that's what the body of the garden room costs. So, if you want electricity added, that's something else that you'll need to pay for, but we can help you with that. If you've already got a base, you might not need to think about it, but if you don't, you'll have to consider that into the price of the project too. I'm going to talk about that later in a separate video, because base works and electrics, there's usually a lot of questions about that. However, just the garden room, that's where we're at, 40,257. So we're not looking at that poor quality market. The buildings are inexpensive, but they're not lasting a long time, and we're not at the building control line, really expensive place. We are straddling this of good quality and smart it, and that's where these garden rooms come in. So the Kendrogan interior, I think it's great. I really like this one. How does it look? Actually, I look like this. And because I've got furniture garden, I decided to do this from 2 different angles. So this is me in one corner, right in that corner again. And here I'm walking over to the camera, get it out of the way. Oh, you can see every pore on my nose. Maybe there's some kind of like kindly filter for ladies in their 40s. Ladies, what is this? 1952. And the other one I did from the other corner of the building. Yeah, I kept putting the walls. I'm really sure about that. It's just sure that there's space here. So, 4 steps at least, making it around people in that particular case. And yeah, so that's what it looks like with the person using that furniture and having a on a sunny afternoon. And it was yesterday when I made those videos. Okay, so the control. And those are the 2 shaped roof gardens that use shovels. Right, what's next? On the Forley, this is a popular model. It is a rectangular building, and it's got a peg roof, and was specifically designed so that the back of the building is lower than the front of the building. Why is that important, you might ask? Well, if you are trying to steer clear of planning permission and you want to use permitted development rules, there is a rule in that set of instructions that says your garden can't be more than 2.5 metres tall within 1 metre of a bay. Again, if you talk about planning, I'll get into that. But the vault is specifically designed so if you want to planning permission, you need to put your garden closer than that 1 metre limit. You'll be okay. You've got space and make it. So the back of the building is lower and the top of the building is higher, and it looks a wee bit like this. So, such a good day yesterday. So sunny. For all that I'm clear of what's going cool, it is really gorgeous outside at the moment. Here is the volley. Oh, I haven't done that properly. You were trying to a few on Instagram of half building and half of my boobs. Apologies. Maybe there's some sort of censorship that should happen here. I don't know, just hanging them around. So, the building unit 8, let's give it a look on the inside. Here we are here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Apologies, I was sure I chilled, but why not? But they don't like that raw space. I'm just going to the end because possibly a little intention. You can see it's different. It's lamp it's got beautiful rugs, it's got loads of furniture, it's got art on walls, flowers, plants, they're really, really homely. You can also visit the little house, and there's a shelf, drinks on it, there's a record there, records. It's a bit of a man cave, this one. Oh, maybe not necessarily, I'm maybe I'm all sweaty. Maybe not necessarily a man cave, wood cave also can be acceptable and found in our garden rooms. But there's loads of stuff in that garden room that makes me think, it's expensive to here. What does it look like with the person inside it? Well, something like this. Here I'm at the far corner, over by the guitars, and camera is in the opposite corner of the bit, so I have to navigate around it all, but you can see it's quite spacious, it's doing okay. And this building is 3 metres by 3 metres. So, let's see the one which here. Anyway, 3 metres by 3 metres, and that building costs £14,197. Again, that doesn't include base for electrics or extras, but if you go to our website and you're curious about prices, everything's broken down, so if you don't add anything, you can at least have a ballpark figure, but when you come to us, they'll let you see if that's something that's within your budget or something that's not within your budget, which is of course the most important question to ask before you start planning anything. Okay, cool, so with the Borley, and final on to the OG used to be summer house, was an incredibly popular summer house, and is now an incredibly popular garden mod. And you'll see why. This one's my favourite. I don't know if you're supposed to have favourites. Maybe it's something you're supposed to pretend that you model it. But actually, they're my favourite. If I was going to have a garden, my garden's quite neat. But I want to know the ones. But also, like, here's there, no judgment. Okay, here it takes that's all. The reason this is not safe for the feed. Look at that properly, so you can see the whole thing. I'm going to do it there again. I'm just going to play that again. Because that's it. And we'll again. That's the plan. Oh, maybe I'm not. I'm sure there's one day where I'll be like super steamer, incredibly slick, everything just works exactly the way I planned it. Today's not that day. It's roasted hot. I haven't had a lunch yet. I'm always a total disaster. I started my morning today by leaving the house to go to work and discovering that the front door lock had basically got hot, just was playing. So I couldn't have my key in the lock. And then I very sensibly decided to check the locking mechanism by opening the door but turning the lock to make sure it was working. Whereupon the lock popped out and nothing else would work. So I thought I was going to have to work from home today and not do the Zoom at all because I was stuck with an open front door. But fortunately, I remember I obviously did the WD-40 first to actually go through the little everything. And after that, when that didn't work, I, from somewhere in my mind, remember that I had mechanical prayer for cleaning my machine. So I dug out my garage, blew the crystal in both sides of the lock, and I mean, whether or not it actually go long enough for it to unseize, or whether it was just luck. Anyway, it was a little lock for it, so that's good. I did it from working. Okay, where's it? The radix there. I was trying to play it again for some reason it's not working. I'll tell you why it's not working. I haven't done it really. That's awesome. So yes, looks like cute little that's what I through a building, into your house, this is what it would look like. Again, beautiful little doors and the little round cloud. It's just a cool building. This one, this is a ready admin boat. And it's going to show you exactly what 3 by 4 looks like. So this one is a big boy. And the inside of it, look at this. Oh no, hold on Instagram, I'll sort you out. So you can see that there's enough space to take it multi-purpose. We've got a wee desk over here, looking at that, easy office material, absolutely no problem with that. And that wall mirrors, next thing, gobble, all that stuff. And over the side of the building, we've got like a little living long office. The sofa and chairs, it's super comfy. That plant garden is against the problem, was trying to get my camera sorted out for these. But the rank is, there's a lot of space in there. If you've got 12 square meters in your garden, there's a whole lot you can do with it. Again, 3 by 4 meters, and the building got 16,750. So we're not talking about a £40,000 building. If you don't need it, probably don't spend much on it. Obviously, the way you're going to use your garden dictates how much money you want to spend on it. That's generally how it goes. If you need a compliant building, they're out there, we need them too. But if it's something that you aren't going to be actually living in, you might want to just come and see. Is this going to be fine for what you need? Are you going to be able to reduce that budget to a smarter price point? Or maybe not. This is all about giving options, and that's exactly what we were trying to do when we designed these buildings. Okay, so that's what it looks like on the inside. I'll show you another video of that because, well, it's bonny. I kind of want to do fuck's sake. So this guy needs to be bigger. This guy needs to be bigger. Now, if it was really multi-smart, I'd be picking this as a bonus to you, but let's go crazy. Now we will. And if there's a little bit on it, we'll cover the there. Yeah, low plus in this garden room. It really looks good. It's a nice place to work. I was in there yesterday when I was cooking up this whole concoction of videos. So, what's it like inside in terms of space? What does it look like with a person in there? It looks like this. So here I'm sitting on the sofa, and over on that sofa, I've got to make my way around, or I'm tapping walls again, doing all that shebang, and then coming all the way over. So there's quite a space in the garden room. People are surprised by how much place you can fit in. You don't necessarily come in knowing exactly how you're going to set up your garden room. You might have a plan for what you want to do in there, and people are often pleasantly surprised by how much space they can get in a relatively. No, it's not that complicated project. It's not even an extension or anything crazy like that. So that's what it looks like from the sofa corner room, and here's what it looks like from the desk corner room. Oh, yeah, in a second, I'm going to So over to the desk. Or past this, I've been seeing going, why not? Chance to have me see something all on. And then again, here camera right in the corner of the garden room. So to the right angle and put a camera there, I walk over from the desk, the camera, over on the sofa to the camera. And that's what these garden rooms look like with a live person inside them. Maybe for sale. So just to quickly cover what's shown you today, and then I'll get out of your way. What are we on? Oh good! I thought I'd be looking for hours and hours like I did the other day, but get this very time. The point of this video was to show you what does a small garden room look like. Now, we define our small garden rooms as under 12 metres squared. That was the biggest size that we felt this strict specification would perform at its best. So you can't have a radiata garden room bigger than 12 metres squared. That would take it into our Blackstone garden room range, which is for the bigger building control compliance stuff. But today I wanted to let you see, what does a 3 metre garden room look like? What does a 4 metre garden room look like? What kind of stuff can you put in here? And how much space do you have to move about when you're inside there? Because if you're spending a load of money on a project for your garden, you want to make sure that it's going to fit the purpose that you've got in mind when you first start dreaming of that project. So we had our 2.7 by 2.7 for Jubilee, that's the first one, the corner rack, and that's the one with the funnel in it. Then we had the 3 metres by 2.4 metres in yoga, and the one with the shingles and the hitch roof rectangular building. Oh, we totally play I Spy in our gardens, very easy, there's always loads of beautiful things there. Then with the symbolic one that was specifically designed to help out if you're struggling for planning permission, budgetary limitations, and we also had one with the Fairy Tale Cottage, which is the biggest backyard garden that we offer, 4 metres by 3 metres, so taking you right up to that 12 metre square limit. So, as always, if you've got any questions, please let me know. I love questions. Sitting here talking to myself feels really weird. It would be so much nicer if A, I had a person to speak to, or B, somebody said something so I wasn't just screaming into the void. Streaming into the void? Oh, Dortle. As I said, the plan was to talk to Gordon this week. He's going to be my other person, so that we'd chat about specification, but it was so fucking complicated, man. We'll get to that. It's really, really tricky to decode garden room specifications if you are not an expert, if you don't have all the information about how the building's put together, and especially if you are being expected to assemble it yourself. That's a one. That's a tricky one. So, thank you for joining me for my first attempt to stream to Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. I'm hoping that it all worked out. Who knows? Not even sure that. And I would love to hear your questions. So put them in the comments. You can do that on any of these platforms. Give us a like, give us a follow if that's your thing. If not, just keep looking out for these live. I'm trying to do one every week. There may be more than one a week, depending on what schedule like. And yeah, that's kind of it for today. So I now know I just have to hit the stop streaming button and things will stop. I don't have to hit the button and wait around for 25 minutes. I need to stop streaming. So thanks for your patience. I'd love to hear your questions. And I hope you're all doing okay out there in this really, really hot weather. Drink plenty of water, eat lots of salty things, and like honestly, I know you want to enjoy the sun, but closing all the curtains and opening all the windows is a really good way to make sure that your bedroom's cool at night. It's tempting to let the sunshine stream in, but it ruins the temperature inside your house. So huddle in a darkened room. That's basically what I'm telling you. Okay, great. Again, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye. YouTube, you fucked me on again. Genuinely thought that would work. Curses. Okay. Yeah? Yeah.